If you're really good at what you do, why does selling still feel harder than it should? Why does your brand not carry the weight you know it actually has? Here's the thing, it's not a skill problem and it's not even a marketing problem. It's what I call the brand identity gap. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You're probably wondering, why should I listen to this guy? I've spent years working with 8-figure entrepreneurs on magnetic marketing teams for major US brands like Hydro Flask and Fortune 500 companies, all while working hybrid and traveling to 37 countries. Now I run my own business and I focus on brand identity for established operators. And here's what I found: most founders and coaches don't need to rebuild their brand from the ground up. They just have a brand identity gap that they need to close. Your brand isn't broken, it's just behind. And I'm going to show you exactly how to catch it up. Because here's what I see all the time: most people who are serious about their work, they are going to evolve constantly. Their thinking sharpens, their standards go up, and results get better. But the brand, the brand is really still out there representing a version of you from 2, 3, maybe even 5 years ago. It's like wearing a suit from college. Technically, it still fits, but something's just off. And people feel it. You feel it. Every time you show up to sell, every time you explain what you do, there's this friction, this sense that you're working harder than you should be to communicate value that's already there. That's the gap. And if you've felt it, you're not alone. I've worked with entrepreneurs who were doing millions in revenue and still felt like they were explaining themselves in every single conversation. Not because they weren't clear, just because their brand was still stuck in 2019. So if that resonates, keep watching because I'm about to show you what changes everything. So let me just say this plainly. You don't have a weak brand. Let's get that out of the way. You have an outdated one. And that changes everything. Because if your brand was weak, you'd have to rebuild from scratch, from the ground up. That's exhausting. And that takes years. But if your brand's just behind you, then all you need to do is catch it up. Okay, so how do you know if you're in this gap space? Here's what it looks like: you're constantly over explaining, not because you're unclear, but because your brand isn't doing any of the heavy lifting for you. Every conversation starts from zero. Every pitch requires context. Every introduction needs a disclaimer. You find yourself saying things like, let me walk you through this, or how this actually works, or it's not what it sounds like. I know my site doesn't show it, but now that's a perception gravity. It's the weight of having to prove what should already be assumed. And it makes every sale feel uphill because when your brand doesn't match your ability, people doubt your product. They doubt whether you are the person who should be delivering it. And that hesitation, it's not really about your offer, it's about this identity gap. So, step one is just naming it and being aware of it. Don't have to blame your messaging. You don't have to tweak your funnel. The problem isn't what you're saying. It's that the vessel you're saying it through doesn't match the altitude you're operating at, the level you're currently at. All right. So if the gap is real, how do you actually close it? This is where most people will go wrong. They think, I need a rebrand. So they get a new logo, maybe a new website, some fresh colors, and nothing changes because they skipped the structure. Here's what actually works. And I'm going to break this down into 3 layers. Layer 1 is VisionCore. This is actually your internal anchor. It's how you see the work, the way you frame the problems, the standards that you hold, and the patterns you've noticed that others haven't. Most people never articulate this. They just operate from it. But if you don't define it, you can't actually express it confidently. And if you can't express it, your audience has to guess where you're coming from. And that's exhausting for them and expensive for you. Layer 2 is verbal magnetism. This is how you talk about the work, not the surface level tagline. I'm talking about the frame you use to describe what's happening. Are you using language that signals depth or language that sounds like everyone else? Do your words create clarity or do they create more questions? Because here's the truth: people don't buy what you do, they buy how you say what you do. And if your language is still stuck in beginner mode, your brand will feel that. Even if the results say otherwise, your brand's going to plateau at that space. Layer 3 is visual authority. This is the part most people see first and judge fastest. It's your website, it's your social media profiles, it's your assets. But here's what most people actually miss. Visual authority isn't about being pretty. It's about being congruent and consistent. Does the design reinforce the thinking? Does it feel like it came from the same brain that does the transformational work? Or does it look like a template you downloaded because you didn't know what else to do? See, when all three of these layers align, vision, voice, and visuals, that's when the gap closes. That's when people stop asking, wait, what do you do? And start asking, how do I work with you? So what happens when you close the gap? Let me tell you what it feels like. Sales get shorter and more effortless, not because you're pitching harder, but because people get it faster. They've already decided you're credible before you even open your mouth. Your brand did that work for you. Authority becomes instant, and you're not proving yourself in every interaction. You're not starting from scratch. People meet your brand and they think, oh, this person is serious, dialed in. And that changes the entire tone of the conversation. You stop selling uphill, trying to climb a mountain. You remember that perception gravity we talked about? It's now gone. Momentum works with you now. That's what alignment does. It turns your brand from a bottleneck into an amplifier. Watching this and thinking, I don't want to just learn this. I want someone to help me build it. If you want a complete done for you solution, I work with a small number of founders and coaches every quarter to close their brand identity gap completely. We build the VisionCore, we architect the brand voice language, we design an entire brand identity system. We do it in a way that feels like you and represents the level that you are going to scale to. So if that sounds interesting, there's a link below to book a clarity call. We'll look at where you're at, where your brand needs to be, and whether it makes sense to work together. The most important thing is this. I want you to know that you don't need to reinvent anything. You just need alignment. Your brand is not broken. It's just behind the level that you've reached. And the moment that you bring your brand forward, everything gets easier. So let's close that gap. And if you want to keep going deeper on this, I've got another video coming up that breaks down the exact language patterns that create verbal magnetism. It's right here, and I'll see you there.